जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना भल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जना भल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जना भल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी गोपी जना भल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी Jashoda Nandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Jaya Jashoda Nandana Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parikraj Ashtotara Shatashimat Divine Vaisesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shatashimat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Adantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Grantara Shimam Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees, oh, glories to the assembled devotees, oh, glories to the assembled devotees, oh, glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, entitled The Summon Bonum, Chapter 61, Lord Balaram slays Rukmini. Text number 6. I had my computer somehow or other, when I press text number 6, it throws me to text 20 something. So I spent the morning preparing on text 20 something just to find out that it was not the right verse. So, Krishna's arrangement. It's all the fault of Atmarama Prabhu. Okay. Pratyugamash Prat let's see. Pratyugama Shanabara Bararhana Pada Saucha. Pratyugama Shanabara Bararhana Pada Saucha. See if I find a better meter. Pratyudgama Shanabara Bararhana Pada Saucha. Pratyudgama Shanabararhana Pada Saucha. Tambula Vishamana Vigyana Gandamalyai. Tambula Vishamana Vigyana Gandamalai. Kesha Prashara Sajanasna Panopaharyai. Kesha Prashara Sajanasna Panopaharyai. Dasi Sati Dasi Satapya Apibit Dasi Satyapi Vibor Vida Bhusma Dasyam. Dasi Sata Api Vidor Vidatu Sma Dasyam. Pratyugama Shana Bararhana Pada Saucha. Tambula Brisramana Bijana Gandamalyai. Kesha Prasara Sajanaspanano Paharyai. Dasi Satapi Vivoda Budusma Dasyam. Pratyugama Shanabarha Hanapada Saucha Tambulabhishamanabhigyanagandamalyai Kesha Prashara Sajanasnapanopahadyai Dasi Satapi Bibur Bidabhusna Dasyam. Christian. Pratyudgama, by approaching asana, offering a seat, vara, first class, arhana, worship, pada, his feet, saucha, washing, tambula, offering betel nut, vishramana, helping him to relax by massaging his feet, vijana, fanning, gandha, offering fragrant substances, malyai, and flower garlands, kesha, his hair, prasara, by dressing, sajana, arranging his bed, snapana, bathing him, upaharyai, and by presenting gifts, dasi, maid servants, sattaha, having hundreds, api, odo, bibho, for the Almighty Lord, Bidadhusma, they executed, Dasyam, service. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Although the Supreme Lord's queens each had hundreds of maid servants, they choose to personally serve the Lord by approaching him humbly, offering him a seat, worshiping him with excellent paraphernalia, bathing and massaging his feet, giving him pan to chew, fanning him, anointing him with fragrant sandalwood paste, adorning him with flower garlands, dressing his hair, arranging his bed, bathing him, and presenting him with various gifts. Purport, the Bhaktivedanta purport, DBT purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that Sukadev Goswami is so eager to describe these glorious pastimes of the Lord with his queens that he has repeated these verses. That is, text 5 of this chapter is almost identical with text 44 of the 59th chapter of this canto. And text 6 is identical with text 45 of that chapter. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that the term Vararhana, excellent offerings, indicates that the queens offer the Lord palmfuls of flowers, pushpanjali, and palmfuls of jewels, ratnanjali. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Shatarine Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripasindu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Offering my respects to Sucharya Mataji Prabhu. Very nice to have you here. And the glorification of Krishna and the queens of Dwarka is being described here by Srila Sukadeva Goswami. And the amazing narration that we're being offered by Sriman Bhagavatam, in which we have entrance to these most intimate pastimes of the Lord and his very, very close devotees, associates. And here we say basically the description of how Krishna was able to reciprocate with each one of these goddess of fortunes, these queens of Dwarka, that amount to 16,108. And Krishna displaying his full opulence. Krishna is described as Bhagavan, which is the manifestation in total fullness of the six opulence, and one of them is wealth. So Krishna is manifesting all this full opulence in his pastimes of Dwarka. And not only that, he's able to expand himself in 16,108 forms and being able to perform independently. This was fully completed forms. It's not necessarily that the description of this yoga siddhi, that great yogis are able to expand themselves, but the expansions, they're connected to the original one, and they cannot act independently. That was the case of, what was the famous yogi who was able to expand himself. Can't remember if it was Vishwamitra or there was some yogi in the Mahabharata, the Quranic histories that is described like that. He was able to expand himself. But this is not the case with Krishna because Yogeshwara Krishna was able to expand himself in 16,108 form and be fully independent and being able to do different things. This all was witnessed once by Narada Muni, who came to visit Krishna in Dwarka and was mesmerized by Krishna's opulence and this particular fact that Krishna in each one of these expansions was performing so many different activities in different palaces. And one of the things that is described here is how the intimate relationship that Krishna has with each one of these queens, and the fact that each one of these queens, by that reciprocation of Krishna, is completely satisfied in their desire to, to possess Krishna in one sense. Their loving desire, the Krishna being the object of their love, they have this sense of possessiveness towards Krishna. And in that possessiveness, it gets completely fulfilled by Krishna's presence, and their thinking is that, oh, I am Krishna's favorite queen because Krishna is present there. And this same description is remarkable. What the purport here tells us is that Srila Sridhar Swami, he points out that in chapter 59, that is a chapter in which the description of Krishna killing Narakasura and rescuing all these 16,000 princesses and then marry them. And then the chapter concludes by this exactly the same two verses, that is number 5 and number 6, the one that we're reading now. Number 5 reads like this: that does this woman obtain as their husband the master of the goddess of fortune, although even great demigods and Lord Brahma do not know how to approach him. With ever increasing pleasure they felt loving attraction for him, exchanged smiling glances with him, eagerly anticipating association with him in ever fresh intimacy, and enjoying in many other ways. And today's verse, so it's exactly the same verse that I described at the end of this chapter when Krishna brings all those princes to Dwarka and establish them as his queens, each one with a wonderful arrangement of palaces and servants and things like that. And what is pointed out here is that because of their unalloyed attraction towards Krishna, although they have millions of servants, they will personally serve Krishna and, and especially approach him in a humble mood, in a service mood. So the description is very beautiful and it's very much parallel to the training that we have when we do deity worship, how we should approach the deities and how we should worship Krishna in this case, the deity's form of Lord Krishna and um, and Shrimati Radharani, how we should serve them, and the approach should be that we approach in a very humble way. We actually serve our deities in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan, and in this case also, in this mood of awe and reverence that is also present in Dwarka. And so it's very, very similar. The first thing when we do, when we sit down to worship the Lord, is recite this prayer that can't remember the full prayer, but um, I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a grihasta, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not of this particular nature or this particular varna or this particular ashram. What is my identity? My identity is Gopi Bhartur Kama Padajor Dasa Dasa Anudas. So the first thing that we establish is this position of humility, the position that I'm not just a servant of the Lord, but I'm a servant of the servant of the servant. And not just as a servant of the servant of the servant, but I'm actually an insignificant servant of the servant of the servant. This word, uh, uh, das, anu das. This word anu das means, you know, like a particle, like a little fraction, like a tiny, insignificant dasa. That's my identity. I'm an insignificant dasa of the servant, of the servant, of the servant, of those intimate associates of the Lord who are serving Him in these wonderful, intimate ways. So, that sense of humility, with that sense of humility, then we approach the Lord and then we start to worship Him, offering all these different items that are very much parallel to 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 what we read here that the queens will do in a daily basis to serve Krishna. They approaching humbly, they offering him a seat. So the first thing that we do with the Lord when we worship is that we offering him a seat. We invite him to take his shoes. Uh, that my dear Lord, here's your paduka, idam paduka, like that, and we invite the Lord, please, and then idam asanam, then we offer a seat. So he put his shoes, his sandals, and then comes to a seat, and then we tell him, kindly be comfortable in your seat. Swagatam su swagatam. Be comfortable, be relaxed. Like it says here that what in translation, I think it says, in the word by word, that the Lord becomes, very comfortably situated. Relax. So swagatam su swagatam. Kindly be comfortable. And then we start to offer these different items. We offer water to wash his feet. We offer water to wash his mouth. We offer water to sprinkle over his head, like that. And we offer this tambula, or this um, betel nut. It's something that is, I never tasted it myself. I never tried that. It's supposed to be something that is, for sadakas is not recommended, but for the Lord is something that is one of the items that is given, these 16 upachars. That is 16 upachars that are part of deity worship. So then we offer all these different items, and then we invite him to to be situated so we can massage them with fragrant oils, Sugandha Thailand. Sugandha means, fragrant substances. And then we massage his body. And this is all in that mood of what we're trying to really revive. And when we read these things, we see that this is the actual, these devotees, these queens, these associates of the Lord, they're the perfection and the perfect position of a worshiper of the Lord, of a servant of the Lord. And how, when they do that, they're in perfect, unalloyed devotion. And these are all natural symptoms of love when they do it. So we can, when we hear these narrations, when then we can see, we can have a picture, a very clear picture of how pure devotees worship the Lord. So then when we do those activities, we can meditate on that. And it's just very, very wonderful when you are uh, translated what you hear in the scriptures and you're able to actually have a hands-on experience of these very same principles on the very same Lord who has very kindly manifested in his deity form. That's why it's so important. Deity worship is so important for the conditioned souls to be able to revive, to have a direct experience of serving the Lord in this very same way that the intimate devotees they do. So it becomes not just a meditation, not just an act of worship, but it becomes actually a direct experience, a very direct experience of those very same activities. And it's very, very powerful. Now, it is very important for us to have both of those things, to have the philosophical basis, the understanding, the, 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 the understanding of how these activities are performed uh, by the pure devotees and also being guided by the Vaishnava acharyas to understand properly how to execute these things. And then by the Vaishnava acharyas, we've been directed to, experience, to do these activities of deity worship. And we sing that every morning in the Guru Ashtaka prayers. Sri Vigrahara Dhana Dityanana Shingara Mandira Marjana. That the spiritual master engages in this deity worship because uh, it's the application for us of this type of thing. So that's why for conditioned souls it becomes something of extreme importance to actually being able to engage in the worship of the Lord. Um, and it's just very, very, very sweet. And there's something also that one of the things, and just like this wonderful festival that we just experienced of Kishori's 50th anniversary. In one of the discussions, there was the question of, I think His Holiness Ramapa Swami asked the audience, and also all the Prabhupada disciples who were present, who are, who have worshipped for for such a long time as Kishori, if they will have a direct experience of Kishori's reciprocation, the deity's reciprocation. and that actually was very transformative. That was very significant in the devotee's life. Some devotees share with that, but the fact is there is something very special when you worship the Lord, the deity form, and there is reciprocation. There is something that each one of us are able to experience with no doubt. It's what people call as a religious experience. And those type of experience, that's what, you know, strengthen our faith and our conviction, our desire. So, and it's something that each one of us, for sure, is what we're still here. It's that we still, even though through all the different difficulties and obstacles that we may encounter in our endeavor to become, better and advance in devotional service, we remain fixed in the process because of this reciprocation, because we see them. One of them is that it becomes very clear. Krishna reveals the opulence of his beauty. And I don't know if you, when you have the experience of seeing, or even in your own case, like Urmila Prabhu was saying that she was not able to see the deities, you know? Same, in one sense, the first time that I come to the temple, we don't understand the deities. We cannot appreciate the deities. So we don't see that beauty and that the opulence of beauty of the Lord is not fully revealed when we're not, the, the devotion is still quite much covered. Um, but as we go on, as we associate and start to get into the process of devotional service, there is something that happens that we start to see the beauty of the Lord. And one of the things that becomes quite an experience is when you directly worship in the Lord, that you can, it's almost like it becomes, like so overwhelmingly real that you see so much beauty. Like, and you've seen a little, when you go into the world of art and you see people's creations of art, there's beauty in there. So you can appreciate the beauty of an sculpture, of a form, of a paint. But it's something. Oh, you appreciate the skill, you appreciate the artistry, you appreciate the depiction of something. But it doesn't necessarily transforms you, like like when you're interacting with it doesn't transcend just that. But seeing the form of the deity, which is, for the mundane eye, it's just a form of stone or metal or things like that. It's just another sculpture for the mundane eyes. But all of a sudden, we devotees were able to see beyond that. We see actually the most beautiful person. And it's an experience that we all have. And there's two things that especially hits you, in which that you can actually experience the personality of Godhead, even in our conditioned state, that you can experience their presence and their full manifested beauty. It's true. It is explained to his beautiful smile and to his beautiful eyes. Those two things really hits everybody that devotees has, and somehow that there's a drawn that is there to the lotus eye of the Lord and to the beautiful smile. And in one sense, When we connect with a person, usually, there's a connection. There's this eye to eye connection, and the facial expression that, especially when someone there's something that connects you. When you see someone that is, it may be, eh, upset or have some restraint. You see it in their face. But when you see a smile and you see these beautiful bright eyes, then there's something that you connect. So we're able to see that in the Lord, and so it's something that becomes open to us through the process of deity worship, and and to be able to get to appreciate or to come to the position of deity worship, we have to hear. We have to hear first. We have to hear these narrations. We have to become purified by hearing the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name. We have to become purified. There's something that have to be removed for us to be able to see. And the Lord is very generous with sharing Himself. The Lord is very eager to share Himself, and that's something that we also experience. Because the fact is that if we start to um, make an account of uh, what we can have with whatever, you know with our capacities, um, is very limited. It's very limited. So the Lord is extremely generous and kind. I'm going to read also, just for, and then I stop here. Like I say, I was preparing for another class. I was preparing for the way ahead when Balaram was dealing with the killing of Rukmi. So I was into the gambling, the the whole dice and gambling stuff. So I was preparing a really nice class on that subject matter of gambling, and then when I see, oh no, this is not text 6. Anyway, so here's Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Two short comments by our Vaishnavacharyas. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this verse describes their actions of menial service to express their love, anubhava, having Krishna as the object of their prema. They serve him by offering the best items, vara arhanam, such as handfuls of flowers and jewels. And Srila Jiva Goswami comments, sometimes prasada is seen instead of prasada. In this order they serve him. Bara har bara bararana refers to sprinkling handfuls of flowers, puffed rice, and jewels. Sridhar Swami refers to descriptions of their service in the first canto. Like, uh, do you go in the altar and throw flowers the Pushpanjali? Did you go in the altar when they put in? Yes, that's that's the power of throwing handfuls of flowers. That was very nice. So anyway, these are the things that, and sometimes I just finish with this. Sometimes when my favorite, I become very attached. Part of the service that I do in the altar is dressing chota Kishore Kishori, the small Kishore Kishori. And I like that very much. I got very attached to that because the fact is that you can offer the 16 items to them. With bigger Kishore Kishori, you go straight to dressing, but you offer all the 16 items that are described for deity worship to the small deities. So I like that very much. Especially when it comes to massaging them and bathing them. It is, and then you think about it. You get the sense that your faith and up to where you are right now, you fully believe this is the personality of God, and your whole mood is like that. And so the fact that you're doing that very intimate service is such an intimate service to massage them and bathe them, and then put tilak, put kumkuma on Srimati Radharani's head, and then dress them. So you hear that those are the activities in Goloka Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, those are the activities that this group of gopis they do um, to the divine couple, Shishi, Radha and Krishna, Kishore Kishori. So, meditating, or at least, trying to imagine, these beautiful servants of the main gopis. These are the Manjari gopis who do all these activities of massaging, bathing, bringing milk, all the flowers, having the dress, all these different things. And these are the activities that they do, and we are, somehow or other doing those same things, that same intimate type of service. And when you think about it, it's quite inconceivable. It's quite something. And you try to to think about those, and it creates a very, very wonderful sense of, like, it's almost like timeless. Time, it becomes, nothing is happening but just that activity. That's how beautiful it is. And so I would say, I will say that there is something that is an opportunity that for all devotees, it is wonderful, like that, to actually being able to do like that. And in one sense, you can, the Lord will reciprocate. The same thing you can have with the holy name, and the same thing you can have with any type of service. But there's something about, the touching, the being able to have to, with your own body, with your hands, to have that sort of experience. Because when we're doing those things, the whole, everything's engaged in the service. Because we are touch with touching, it's like the description of uh, Maharaj Ambarish, meditation, that with all your senses you're serving the Lord, and it's just very powerful experience. Any comments or questions? Yes, Modest Acharya. Can you bring the microphone?
Is it on? Yes. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada would repeatedly say that we should prepare ourselves to go back home, back to Godhead. Is it too loud?
Yeah, you can bring it down, number one.
Prabhupada would repeatedly say to please prepare ourselves to go back home, back to Godhead. And so we always hear that, but we see so many devotees taking birth in the movement, and so many devotees saying that they just want to come back and serve. And so I asked the question to His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami. I said, there was a home program, and there was mostly his disciples in there. And so he was talking about the spiritual world. So I said to him, Maharaj, is it really a fact that we can go back in this life? Because we hear that there's a lot of preparation needed. So then Maharaj was very quiet. Tamal Krishna Goswami, he was very quiet. And then he said, yes. He said, we can go back home, back to Godhead. He said, especially the pujaris, because they're training to do exactly what they're going to do in the spiritual world. They're touching Krishna's lotus feet. They're bathing him. They're feeding him. He said, so the pujari, not that the pujari is better than anyone else, but just that the pujari is being trained to serve Krishna personally, intimately. So he said, yes, they can go back to Godhead because they're always thinking of Krishna. And then I wanted to mention about the point you made about how Krishna personally took care of each and every queen, and they felt very satisfied, and that he could expand himself unlimitedly. Prabhupada said 16,000 wives. He said he can have 16 million. He can have so many, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yogeshvara. So Prabhupada writes in his purports further along in this canto, he writes that Lord Krishna would perfectly appreciate and reciprocate each talents and personalities of each queen. He said some of the queens were very talkative and very social, and others were very quiet and shy. Others were very studious and learned, and others were just very simple. And Prabhupada writes that each of their aspects of their personality, Krishna would magnify their beauty and reciprocate in his transcendental loving manner. And there was just so much variety and talents and just unlimited pleasure. And then in the first canto, Prabhupada's writing about how when Krishna saw the queens that were kidnapped by Bhaumasura, that Krishna said to them, all right, now you are freed. No more demon, you are freed. You can go back to your homes. And they all ran to him saying, Krishna, we've been ruined. We can't go back to our homes. We've been kidnapped by this demon, Bhaumasura. He said, so what can I do? He said, please marry us. He said, all right. And Prabhupada writes that Krishna could see the uncontaminated love they had for him. And he immediately accepted them. And immediately he made arrangements to send jewels and clothes and ornaments and utensils for all of them. And immediately he said, Prabhupada said that he dispatched all of this to Dwarka to prepare for his queens to come. And then also what I felt was very... Am I talking too much?
No, please. Actually,
Okay.
I was thinking, how in the world I was sitting here when you were there?
So I thought it was very... it shows how Lord Krishna accepts, appreciates, empowers, loves more and more and more, so that each queen felt so attached to him, and that he didn't interfere with their free will. Because when they went to visit, he didn't want to squash them as being, submissive wives. He accepted their nature and he encouraged their nature. He never chastised them for, well, maybe he did, but in the instance of when they visited Hastinapur, for the Rajasuya sacrifice, King Yudhisthira arranged for all kinds of festivals every day to honor Krishna and to please his wives. And so then there's the instance when Duryodhana comes to visit the palace. And first of all, Duryodhana becomes so angry and so envious at the magnificence of Yudhisthira's palace. So he's walking, and then there's a place, it looks like a rug. It looks like a rug, but actually it's flower petals in the shape of a rug with water underneath it. So Duryodhana's walking, and all of a sudden he falls right in the water, just completely, like everything, just completely submerged in water. So all the queens start laughing. And generally the ladies don't laugh, but they were laughing. And then Yudhisthira got real upset, and he looked at Krishna saying, you better tell the queens to stop laughing. And Krishna, just with a nod of his head, said, no, it's all right. They can laugh. And so instance like that, where Krishna, um, again, shows his love by accepting them for who they are. And so then also you mentioned in your class about the yogi who expanded himself 9 times. That was Kardama Muni, and his wife was Devahuti. And it was the perfect marriage. He's the perfect husband. She's the perfect wife. And they had 9 beautiful daughters. And then they had their son, Kapila Dev. But Kardama Muni said to her, but I'm going to leave after I have a son. So although it was the perfection of everything, it was the material world. And so there's a whole chapter in the Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto called Devahuti's Lamentation. And so, but Krishna's wives, he didn't leave them. Of course, he had his transcendental pastimes. So he did leave the planet, and most of the queens stayed. I don't know if some of them went with him. I don't know. But Kardama Muni could expand himself 9 times, but he was dependent on each of those expansions. He wasn't independent. Whereas Krishna's Yogeshvara, and he's completely independent. And he can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And so this is the beauty and the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that he can empower individuals like Kardama Muni, who was so powerful. He created a whole mansion in the sky that was a city. And he traveled all over and showed Devahuti all these beautiful things. And it was so romantic and so wonderful. But the happy ending was that she took shelter of her son, Kapila Dev, and said, please instruct me. My senses are always agitated. Please, So then he prepared her for going back to Godhead. So she did achieve it. She did go back to Godhead, and she worshipped Kapila Dev. So just to end up, the position of the queens, I heard Prabhupada say in a lecture, he said that they would laugh and joke with Krishna, and he was like a henpecked husband. He said they did not know their exalted husband. Prabhupada said that because everyone else is worshiping Krishna with awe and reverence and grandeur, and the queens are smiling at him and winking at him and, acting like wives, and he's acting like the perfect husband, and he is the perfect husband. And so when Krishna left the planet, which is so painful, but they completely went deeper and deeper in their absorption in their Lord, their Master, their eternal companion. So those are the thoughts I had about your class. But thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Sucharya Prabhu. Can you put the microphone? I actually realized this previous mistake of not having invited, you to speak. I mean, it's such a beautiful. Uh, I know But um, but anyway, I'm so grateful. I think it's um, very wonderful just to hear you and all the things that you have to say. I have one question for you. Um, you mentioned this very, um, you know, relevant um, principle that Krishna show with the queens in terms of acceptance, and it's such a it's such a you know relevant thing that we have to confront as devotees in how we relate with each other in terms of acceptance to our natures, our differences, uh, even our strengths and weaknesses, and being able to just like Krishna, even if they're doing something that is for you this year was a little bit like, oh no, this is not right. Krishna is saying, they can do, like that. Sometimes of things that even if we may be, doing something, but, you go beyond the, the external circumstance and see beyond that and see, the intention, the purity of heart that at the end, or something that is the positiveness that is behind. So this element of acceptance translated into ourselves, how we relate with each other, and how can we get better at creating a community that embraces that principle, of what things can we do to become better and accepting each other.
Prabhupada said that we chant 16 rounds a day. That's our vow to the spiritual master. And he said this is our great benediction because we get to associate with Krishna for 2 hours. And we chant his name and we could think about him and think about our spiritual master, how he's given us this opportunity to develop love for Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead, and stop this suffering in the material world. Srila Prabhupada writes some very instructive prayers. It's in the 6th canto, chapter 19, and it's the story of the Pumsavana ceremony. But in this chapter, Prabhupada is describing the elements of deity worship. And then in one verse and purport, he quotes a prayer. And it's to Lord Vishnu because we actually worship the deities with respect and awe and reverence because we're neophytes and we're learning how to honor the Supreme Lord, the majestic personality of Godhead who is perfect in every way. So in the purport, it's a very short purport. Prabhupada said, this verse is very important for all devotees engaged in deity worship. He said they should say this prayer every day while worshiping the deity. And the prayer is the word what Prabhupada translates. O my Lord Vishnu, full in 6 opulences, you are the best of all enjoyers, and you are the most powerful. O husband of Mother Lakshmi, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are accompanied by many associates, such as Vishvakshena. I offer all the paraphernalia for worshiping you. So he said this should be our mood and our prayer to Krishna every day. Again, it's Canto 6, Chapter 19. But I felt that each pujari should, when they're training, they should get a copy of this little prayer. It's very short. They could get a copy of this prayer and they can learn it and please Prabhupada because he said this verse is very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? And I would suggest that those questions get directed at Mother Suchanda. chariot. That if there's any other questions, like, our devotees here, and then.
You ordered me to make a question? So this process of archana, the deity worship, is like it really make to feel all your senses involved and touch the deity, through prayers, uh, incense, garlands, and like it really become absorbed. When we come inside of the altar, we are not in an ordinary place. I have the experience in Vrindavan. We come inside the altar of the Krishna Balaram, Radha Sundara, Lalita Visakha, Gurnita. This is not ordinary place. It's something above. This is not ordinary place. It's about all. It's inconceivable. What you experience when you are inside the altar, it's inconceivable. You are really, really in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, face to face. And so this mercy can be attained, by, of course, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that allows to us to approach to the deities in such a way that we can experience that this process of archana is really bona fide to develop the bhakti and the devotion towards Krishna, and then gradually, overcome all anarthas, all the difficulties, and then attain this Visuddha Sattva, pure goodness, but keeping worship, during our life to the deities. And we saw how much mercy we got from Krishna Kishori, all these days, that I was coming with no expectations, but, like what is going to happen during the celebrations. And every day was something special was going on, like a really charming, attractive. And then the Pushpanjali was just amazing, like a really, we were not Vaikuntha, we were in Krishna Loka together, no? So amazing, blissful times. This happened once in life, to have this experience. I'm very grateful to Kishore Kishori and all Vaishnavas here. Allowed me to come to be together and then have this experience of this process of Archana and Kirtana, Ravana. Jai.
I would like to hear from Krishna Archana because your name is Krishna Archana. So I want to hear what you have to say. Just say something.
Improvise like I did, Like,
something on the topic of deity worship. Oh, all right. I'll circle it around because the speaker Subal had said to direct questions to you. So something that came to my mind in hearing, there's always the mention that for a long time, performing deity worship is almost like a mental exercise. It's very much on the mental plane. So I think perhaps what I was contemplating was that shift to, even though one is practicing, that shift where it's genuinely a connection with the personalities that are present there, that it's not just, mentally practicing something and perhaps not fully connecting. So I think I'd pose a question. Does the mental constant practice allow for that connection to manifest, or is it that there's some merciful, should one say, like gesture or reciprocation from the deities, personalities that are present there on the altar that allows for a reciprocal emotional connection to come from the pujari?
That's a very good question, Krishna Archana. Very deep, just like you. So, what Srila Prabhupada taught us deity worship, he taught us to always depend on the spiritual master, and that the prayers, the Mangalarti prayers, the spiritual master is engaged in worshiping Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. He said they offer them clothes and flutes and ornaments. So I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. So when we go on the altar, we always offer obeisances to our spiritual master. And basically, we are assisting him in his worship because he's our master. He's our spiritual master, and he's teaching us. So by engaging us, then we are serving him, and he is serving his spiritual master, and all the way up to Krishna. So that very tight, close link between disciple and guru. And this will help us to properly take it off the mental practicing platform and bring it to an offering of love. And like Srila Prabhupada is always saying, can you please assist me in this Sankirtan movement and also in deity worship? So we are assisting the spiritual master by the mercy of the spiritual master. And that was Srila Prabhupada's constant meditation, and everything he did was for my spiritual master. He said, I'm always with my spiritual master. He's always present with me. And that was his life and his soul, and every thought was to please him. And so all this manifested because of a pure devotee, disciple of a pure devotee, in training people to come to Krishna consciousness, all the proper procedures and articles of worship, and also the right mood of the heart, saying, please help me in my mission to my spiritual master. Thank you.
Anyways, it's came to be a very, wonderful. Also, I was a little concerned because I was not prepared. This ended being such a wonderful discussion. And I think we should stop here. It's almost time for breakfast and finishing the arti. But thank you so much, Mother Sucharya Prabhu. Uh, we're gonna miss you, and we hope that to have the opportunity again to render some service and see your smiling face and and hear you. Yes, please. We can maintain ourselves in contact, and possibly, if we have the chance to visit Dallas, we come and visit you. Hare Krishna. Grantara Shriman Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Kishori Kishori ki, Gaura Premanandi. Hari Bolo.